What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to my channel. So in my previous video, I talked about Cedar Point's history and how Cedar Point became the park it is today. Nowadays, it's an incredible world-class park with over 70 rides and attractions. It's an incredible place, an incredible resort, but it's not perfect. No resort's perfect. And if you don't know, in my previous video to commemorate the 150th anniversary of this park, I talked about many attractions that have benefited the park in the past and that have made the park what the park is today. But today I'm going to look into the future and talk about 5 attractions that I believe would benefit Cedar Point in such an impactful way that would bring more guests and make a big statement to the roller coaster capital of the world. Not all of these are roller coasters, some of these are just attractions that I feel like would boost attendance and raise this as a world-class resort. So without further ado, let's get into it. These are 5 attractions that I believe could benefit Cedar Point. Now, I do want to start off with the more mild attractions, and then I'm going to go to some of the extreme attractions that you coaster enthusiasts just love. So the first attraction I want to talk about is not really a roller coaster, but a flat ride. As you may or may not know, in the 1960s, Cedar Point invested in a 300-foot tall observation tower known as Space Spiral. Now, this was a very good ride that benefited the park in many ways, but they removed it in 2012 to make way for Gatekeeper, which in all honesty has benefited the coaster community at Cedar Point a lot more than Space Spiral did. But Space Spiral provided something that still leaves a hole in Cedar Point to this day, a good family attraction that will give good views. Yes, Dragster and Millennium are pretty tall rides, but those are only for the thrill seekers. What about a ride similar to Brighton United Kingdom's I-360? And it doesn't have to be this tall, but I feel like this ride would pretty much benefit a lot of the park. It would add a family observation ride that would give a lot of people some pretty good views and a lot of good photo ops. And maybe you could even take it outside of the park, maybe in its boardwalk area, or you could put it inside of the park right beside the lake, maybe buy even Wicked Twister and Gatekeeper as a homage to Space Spiral, but I'm not 100% sure. I do think this would be an incredible attraction that would attract a lot of people, but not the thrill seekers. The second thing might attract thrill seekers a little more. It would be an expansion to their water park, Cedar Point Shores. So if you look at Cedar Point Shores right now, it's a pretty well-rounded water park, but it isn't the biggest water park. Cedar Point is a massive amusement park, and why not have a massive water park as well? I'm not saying have the biggest water park in the world, but you could have a pretty decent water park with some more attractions, including a few attractions from Whitewater, including a Boomerango. That's one of those water slides where you dip down, go up into a vertical spike, and then go backwards. And another one is a Whitewater Master Blaster. These water slides are pretty popular, and as you know, Cedar Point and Cedar Fair have bought a few of the Schlitterbahn water parks, and a few of those Schlitterbahn water parks have Master Blasters, so they could learn more about the benefits of it and maybe add them into the future. Another thing I could see at this water park expansion would be a cliff diving platform. They've added this at a few of their parks, and I know they're adding it at Canada's Wonderland this year, and depending on how good and successful it is and how much it benefits the water park, I could see this at Cedar Point as well. From here on out, we're going to talk about roller coasters. The reasons from 3 to 5 are of course roller coasters, because let's face it, even though Cedar Point has incredible complementary attractions like the Hotel Breakers and the beach, the roller coasters are the main focus, and those are the things that people really travel for. People have traveled all across the world, not for the beach, but to ride some of the best roller coasters in the world. So of course, why don't we just add on to this collection? The number 3 attraction I have on this list is a world-class spinning coaster. No one talks about this, but Cedar Point does not have a spinning coaster. A lot of these world-class parks do have spinning coasters, but Cedar Point is left in the dust. As you may or may not know, in 2018, Silver Dollar City came out with Time Traveler, which is a Mack Extreme spinner. What if Cedar Point can make a ride taller and faster than that? What if Cedar Point can contact Mack Rides like they have with Copperhead Strike and many smaller attractions in the past, and install one incredible spinning coaster? It could be labeled the world's tallest, fastest, most inverting, and even the longest spinning coaster in the world, and that would benefit a lot of people. The Cedar Point locals and the GP have probably not ridden a spinning coaster as there are not a lot nearby. The nearest one would probably be Steel Dragon at Waldemere, but even that's a stretch. Cedar Point does lack a spinning coaster, and I feel like that would be a pretty good fit for the park. The next attraction on this list is an attraction that I've heard passed around by a lot of enthusiasts when it comes to Cedar Point's next attraction, It is a world-class wooden coaster. Now, we all know that Cedar Point only has one wooden coaster at this point, and that is of course Blue Streak. Blue Streak isn't necessarily this elite wooden coaster, but instead an old historic one that fills in that marker of being historic and being a good nostalgic piece for Cedar Point's history. But do they have that modern, incredible wooden coaster? Not necessarily. In the past, Cedar Fair has had pretty good luck with Great Coasters International, so why not call them back up again? They made some pretty good and successful roller coasters with Prowler, Renegade, Gold Striker, and Mystic Timbers, but let's talk about a Cedar Point GCI roller coaster. Would it break records? Well, we're talking about Cedar Point, so of course it would break records. They would break a lot of records for modern wooden coasters, maybe even the tallest wooden coaster in the world. And if they went to attempt a hyper wooden coaster, I feel like it would go good this time for American amusement parks. A 200-foot Woodie at Cedar Point would be pretty interesting, but at the same time, it would add on to the hyper coaster collection that the park is famous for. It could focus less on airtime hills that are long and drawn out and be a more compact wooden coaster. Think of something similar to a bigger version of Boardwalk Bullet down in Houston, something similar to that but made by GCI and twice as tall. It could be unique in the form of focusing more on positive Gs and lateral Gs when it's going around a bunch of banked turns, and maybe even have a few inversions like modern GCI wants to get into. But that's basically it on the wooden coaster. I feel like when they work with Cedar Point, GCI would be pretty unique and innovative with their newest attraction. But when it comes to number 5, I feel like this coaster would benefit Cedar Point the most. It wouldn't necessarily be the best coaster at the park, but it would benefit the park a lot and would fill in a hole in the park's lineup that they have been looking for years now. It would be a Bolliger and Mabillard flying coaster. That is right, a B&M Flyer. A B&M Flyer would benefit the park in so many ways, and I feel like a flying coaster at the park, it would stand out on its own, gain its own cult following, and maybe even break some records in between. If Cedar Point invested in the world's tallest and fastest flying coaster, I think they could see a real winner on their hands. Think of all the advertising they could do, being the world's tallest and fastest flying coaster, and being something truly unique to the area. I believe the nearest flying coaster would probably be at either Great America or Great Adventure, because Firehawk is defunct and that wasn't even a B&M. So that's basically my video. Those were 5 of my concepts, but if you have 5 more concepts, 10 or 15 more concepts, put them down in the comments below, and we can discuss how Cedar Point could be a greater and better park tomorrow. Cedar Point definitely has a lot planned behind our backs, as they've been teasing a lot in the past few years, so we're just gonna have to sit back and enjoy the ride. This is Cedar Flags, and I will see you guys later.